What's happening, everybody? Hope this finds everybody well. Welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Will Foden. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive on why your current perfectionism and standard could be the thing that's holding you back. When it comes down to performance, whether it's your mind, body, or your business, how many of us have actually seen and heard of the term of the perfect time, the perfect moment? And what I want to do is actually debunk that, give you the reason why the perfection is actually the killer of your progress, and vice versa, give you a checklist that you're going to take for this week, heading into the back of Q2 for obvious reasons, and into Q3, a little bit of reflection so that you can realign, reconnect, and actually get after it across any realm that you're looking for. So anyway, I digress. First thing to think about is actually, what is perfectionism? Now, perfectionism is a mask of uncertainty. And actually, that mask of uncertainty is actually a mask of fear. When you are in a position where you are unsure about what action to take or whether you're taking the right decision, what most people assume is that if it's not perfect, they can't attack it. That's actually because you're scared of the occurrences of what could happen. Usually, with most people that I work with, that's usually an ego thing. Most people that be listening to this, you have had some form of success, and in that form of success, you're also very aware that that's the thing that's kept you safe, that's kept you locked in, that's kept you progressing, that's kept you seeing the fruits of your labor. But now the reason why you're getting into the bottlenecks of you can't maintain your health and well-being whilst you're pushing your business, you struggle with the mental capacity to deal with challenge and chaos, and actually you've got way too many decisions, and vice versa, you're just currently not leading yourself. It's easier not to, because actually that gives you a certain outcome, where actually you taking steps to recalibrate and reconnect with your performance actually shifts that standard to a new altitude, which is actually unknown territory. And what you have to associate here is it's not about you pushing yourself to the next limit. It's about you absorbing what's happening with that next limit and becoming and adopting the behaviors needed to actually stay at that level of altitude, because that's the difference that's going to make the difference for you. So what I want you to do is just take a little step back and think to yourself, if you do struggle with perfectionism, especially about it, because this is actually an imposter syndrome mechanism, I want you to answer this question. When in your life has there actually been a perfect time to do something? Because actually, usually, that perfect time is you actually reflecting on something that's already happened. I'll repeat that again. When in your life have you actually had and seen the perfect time to execute? 99% of that time, it happens once you've done it. And that's the difference that makes the difference. Is it's all well and good having these structures and strategies and plans and all this kind of thing, but actually the perfect moment is happening right in front of your eyes. And you can't really, the only way you can prep for that and actually what you're looking for is to gain trust with yourself in that moment, is actually have the behaviors and training behind you to be able to adapt, adopt, and overcome real time. So for me personally, something that I those that know my son George is he was born in March last year, so however many months that is, 16 months, 17 months. I'm trying to do it off my hands. And what happened here is most people will say that, oh yeah, because you become a parent, you can't do anything. I on purpose chose to run an ultra marathon whilst we had a son. Reason why? Some people will be blaring up saying, oh, Will, you're being selfish. Actually, we had the best year I've ever had in business last year. I ran an ultra marathon and I've probably spent more time with my family than ever before. Why? Because my decisions actually reflected what my intentions were. And I kept myself to a high standard, knowing that if you're a leader, a business owner, or somebody who values your performance, living on the edge of your capacity is actually where you're going to keep your edge, find your edge. And more to the point, in my line of work, is inspire other people to pull the pin, attack something big and hard and go, do you know what, fuck this. It doesn't mean about you being selfish and, like you said, Will Foden has completed an ultra marathon, not at all. Do you know what was really, really cool? I've got a photo of me, Rach, George, the dog, at a checkpoint where I'm blowing out my ass, eating some random cereal bar, and actually it was so nice to actually have an amazing time with my family whilst I was doing an event. Vice versa, Rach is heading into an Ironman 70.3 next year. There should be another foot. I'll be supporting her. And that's the whole point. In my family, high performance is a given. Not because I'm more audacious or better than anybody else, but because I value it. My standards reflect it. And what I want you to do is take that and place that into your process. Because if you're looking for the perfect time to rise to challenge, you know full well that's never going to happen. So here's some 5 frames that I like to use when it comes down to perfectionism. And actually how this perceived standard that could be killing your progress is actually strangling you without you knowing. So first things first, is perfection is actually the enemy of feedback loops. If you are looking to start something, finish something, you want to challenge yourself to do something great, Actually, the issue that you have with perfectionism is that you never actually start it because you have no feedback. We talk around metrics that you can manage, and actually having no data has no growth. So actually looking from a position of, can I start this thing? What you're looking for is experience and exposure to learn about the thing. As we said, perfect times only happen in the past. Number 2, perfectionism, it feeds imposter syndrome by default. Because actually perfectionism and perfect times and perfect anything else is actually unattainable. And most people actually don't realise that actually this is the reason why they fall short. The chronic gap fuels the belief that you're not good enough, and actually the pursuit that becomes evidence, and that doesn't actually happen because you're not actually clipping the ticket and adapting real time. And usually what most people's perfectionism, how it comes out with, is they don't start, they overdo it, or they eat themselves alive knowing they should be doing something but still don't do it because it's easier to live in a bit of pain. So what I want you to do is start thinking about that one. Professionals confuse standards with perfection. We've just had a big drive inside Built for Pressure in relation to actually what is in raising the standard, raising your personal standard, elevating yourself to a new altitude. And what high achievers actually think is that their perfection around their standards is an identity that depends on flawless execution. But actually, high standards is about consistency and not being flawless. And the issue that most people associate is that they expect to have this perfect scenario 99% of the time, whether it's the perfect training session, the perfect nutrition plan, for them to actually be in a calm, happy and nice place, even when going through challenge, chaos and crisis. The fact still remains is that actually your standard of perfection is I have lived my whole career as a professional athlete of someone who can deal with what's in front of me and try my very fucking hardest, excuse my French. Because what most people associate is especially someone like myself, where I would always tell everybody as a coach, I've been a generalist for a very long period of time because I can deal with a lot of different performance metrics: health, sport, strength and conditioning, mental performance, high performance culture, even strategies of leadership building, buy-in, influence, all these other core pieces of the puzzle. And it actually took me a long time to recognize that actually the imperfection of what I've done is the reason why I can work in the leadership space, because leadership is messy, leadership is ugly, leadership is grey, leadership is contextual, leadership is on a day-to-day basis, everything changes. And the reason why what I say inside our process is that actually our standard is about minor details. Our standard is about little nudges forward. Our standard is about little moments that actually matter compared to big, high perceived perfectionist standards and that kind of thing. Number 4, and actually what perfection will do is it will kill your momentum. Momentum loves speed and action, and my friend Dylan Goodard always said to me that a rolling stone gathers no moss. And the issue that with perfection is it actually slows you down. It actually paralyzes you, makes you overthink, it makes you procrastinate, it makes you stop taking action. And what that does then is that slows everything down and puts the pause button on your performance. Because actually the process is in the actual doing it. The way you can actually gain momentum is about pulling that trigger faster. The way you gain momentum is about reflection, after action review we call that, or review the game tape if you're into sport, and actually navigating the next time compared to stopping and starting, because that stop-start is a thing that holds you back. And lastly, perfection is actually an excuse that makes you feel like it's discipline. This is very similar to that confusion of standards, but actually you think that discipline about being perfect. That is absolute bullshit where I'm from. How many high performers convince themselves that perfectionism is a form of excellence? Well, actually, all you're doing is you really fear from hiding it as all you want is control. Well, actually, I got told this yesterday through an email. I can't remember who it was from. It says perfection is a procrastination in a suit. And that is the biggest difference that makes a difference when it comes down to your performance. Is, are you sat there telling me that because you are looking for excellence that you are just being hyper disciplined or hyper relentless or hyper resilient? Well, actually, most people forget the human inside of their performance. And if you're an elite level operator, you will know, and I'm talking mainly towards military personnel here, that vulnerability is the key to leadership. Because actually knowing why you're scared, knowing that there is hard things out there, knowing that there are things that are dangerous means you're adaptive. And you're making cognizant decisions around minor details in your process to make that happen, compared to telling me that I'm being disciplined. Another example, massive example that happens in my space are how many senior executives start gloating about how much sleep they have or how hard they can train, and they're not even training fucking hard. Because you're sweating hard and because you're shouting your head off does not mean that you're training hard. Trust me, that doesn't mean shit. Where actually, how are you setting your standards and adapting and recovering real time for you to execute at a higher frequency? We want to execute at a higher frequency. I do not want people who are listening to this to still associate more work as more productive. Higher output with less input is more productive. You actually executing on tasks and moving the actual needle and knowing what that needle is, that is actually helping. Next week, we're going to talk around what we've called inside our program called the Leadership Ascension, which is actually giving you the keys to your car back with understanding about goal acquisition, which sounds extremely fucking boring until the amount of people that I meet that don't actually meet the goals they ask. Because actually we need to know how to hit those, not smart targets and all this other stuff. It's how do you set yourself up to actually hit this and keep on ticking that box, because that's the difference that makes the difference. Is chat is cheap, action is where this lies. And what's the name of the game for this is I want you to take these, have a little shake up and go, do you know what, fuck this, I need to make this happen. Massively important. So if you can't deal with certainty inside your professional process, then what do you have? Inside my process that I work with my current customers and athletes this is what we call holding the standard. That is your personal standards mean absolutely everything. And I say I want you to don't tell me them, show me them. I've said this before. But what I'm going to do here is we're going to run you through some quick fire questions and loops that you can take, that you can actually utilize, that you're going to be able to take forward to not only realign your process and know what you need to stop doing, but actually recommit to them. Because now we're heading into Q2, now we're actually thinking about it this way, heading into Q3, it's now a case around understanding what behaviors are serving you, what aren't. What things are actually working inside your process and what's actually dead wood, and then moving from there. So from your athletic performance and from your personal well-being, are you holding the standard with your physical training? Are you training effectively? Are you seeing change? Are you actually pushing yourself to a position where you are adapting? And what I want you to do is color these in red, yellow, green. Obvious reasons. Green says yes, I'm locked in. Yellow means sometimes. Red means I need to set that. 2, have you got your recovery in check? If you are not recovering, if you can't cultivate energy, if you feel like you've been run over every 5 minutes, that is not normal. And it doesn't matter what level of the game you're playing at when it comes down to your performance. I guarantee you, most people who are operating at a high level recognize that actually their downtime is more important than their uptime. So if you feel like you've been smashed all the time, it's red. If you feel like you're locked in and you every time you're showing up every single day, full guns and roses, I want you to be green. Being honest, most people that are this are in the yellow. I'm in the yellow too, because you're in seasonality of your performance. But what I want you to do is think, is the visual matching the audio? We just rebuilt and recalibrated the whole inside of my program. I'm melted. Q2 has been incredible. I've got some incredible clients, all that kind of stuff. But effort's high. So recovery is important. But am I always cooking on gas? No, but I regulate myself real time. The next question, are you just cruising? Or are you actually holding yourself to a higher standard? Something that happens with business professionals is they sit there and they're in cruise control the whole time because they think that actually they because they work hard, everything else is great. Actually, are you okay? Do you actually look, feel and perform at a high level? Do you look like shit because you don't look after yourself? Do you feel like shit because you don't look after yourself? Or are you actually dominating and adapting? And lastly, have you got your nutrition in check? Do you actually know your numbers? Do you know what you are hitting? Are you hitting the right amount of protein, water, fiber, your supplements, etc.? Are you doing this? Because my piece of this, what I see with many people, is they forget the world-class basics and they associate random supplements or random protocols rather than starting your day with a glass of water rather than a coffee. It seems normal, but if you struggle with that, something to recalibrate. Number 2 is actually your personal development from a personal growth standpoint. And are you currently investing in your personal development? If you are a business leader of some description or you want to operate at a higher frequency, the more self-aware you become, the more effective you will be. Elite level performance worries about the next rep. Average performance worries about the outcome. So if your next rep from personal growth is what are you studying, what are you investing your time in, what are you reading, what are you fueling your brain? I'm glad you've already got a yellow star because you're fueling your brain on this podcast, but that is a huge piece of this puzzle, that if you're not growing, nothing in your life will grow with you. How often do you have some white space in your diary? This is something that most people forget, is actually you need to have buffer time. You cannot just do back-to-back meetings because you have not got the gas to. If you haven't got your training locked in your diary, you're going to struggle. But white space is where you actually decompress. And like we said, we want downtime rather than just uptime. Number 3, and we call this your personal power play inside my program, is actually when do you schedule fun into your diary? When do you? Last night I was with Rach and we were about to go to bed. Don't worry, nothing dirty. And we sat there taking the piss out of each other for about 10 or 15 minutes. I haven't laughed that hard in so long with her. No, not meaningfully, just because we've been busy. And it really, really, really made me think about how important that is for our relationship and how important that is for me. Is life is not always that serious. But how do you actually put fun into your diary? Me, I've got jiu-jitsu tonight. Obviously, we go into the mountains and we go exploring with a boy. Now we're going to the farm on the weekend, which will be sick. My point is, if you haven't got that locked in inside your diary, that is a yellow or a red. Would you say you're actually currently happy? That is such a hard question because it's so contextual. But what I'd like you to do is maybe put that as a thread for you to pick on your own, is where are you actually happiest? And where are you not happy? I am happiest when I'm connecting with people. Period. When me and my son this morning went downstairs, got him a bottle of milk, sat there. I usually am groggy because it's 5 a.m. And he just walked over, got his new book, sat on my lap and wanted me to read. That is elite level for me. Also, I have the same feeling, not the same feeling, but I'm happy when I'm with other people when I'm training. I'm happy when I'm doing cool shit. Vice versa, I know when I'm not happy. Maybe that's something for you to think about. So what do you need to realign? What do you need to stop doing? And what do you need to recommit to? And lastly, your professional standard. This thing is people talk about being a professional, but their standards look like an average mess. Something that we want to make sure that we're dialed in for heading into Q3 is that. So do you plan and execute your tasks without distraction and effectively? Yes or no? Do you have power plays of the day? Do you have definition of done? Do you reflect and analyze what your process is like and how do you get better? These are all pieces of the puzzle that we should be doing. Do you lead by example and actually lead others by inspiring them to take action, not just shouting at them? Number 3, are you delegating effectively? Because we all know that micromanaging is a control mechanism. That is your perfectionist mindset coming in, and that is you actually trying to control variables that have nothing to do with you. Take charge and build trust. That is elite level leadership and business ownership. And lastly, are you professionally stretching and trying to build new things and challenges into your process to elevate you, push your team, and actually build towards the mission? You guys and ladies should be pushing towards something bigger than yourselves. If you haven't read The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, I'd strongly recommend that book. Is absolutely effing elite level for somebody who wants to take their mind, body, and business to the next level, for sure. So like I said, realign and recommit to what you feel. So just a little going over from here. That perfectionism that you struggle with, that piece of the puzzle that you keep talking to yourself and say, I'm going to start and I may start and I may get there. That is the bit that is holding you back. Shaking hands with fear and going, I need to have the courage to just attack something and get feedback. That is the way you break through that perfectionism. That's the way that you stop this imposter syndrome bullshit that's happening inside your process and realize that everything you're doing from a business ownership, business leadership and athlete standpoint is messy, ugly, grey, but are you moving the needle forward? That's what I want to know. Are you holding yourself accountable into a standard that is going to get you there? Because if you are, lock that in, lock and load, and let's get after Q3. If you've struggled with that, this is time for you to recalibrate. If you are struggling with that, and you said I've just mentioned all those sort of points, if you'd like a copy of that, we've got a leadership performance audit that we have, more than welcome. Drop a comment if you're on YouTube, just type audit, I'll send you it for free, no questions asked. Vice versa on social media channels, just DM me the word audit, I'll send you it. You don't need to give me your email and that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's just a handy little tool for you to take, execute, reflect on after 2 minutes, and you'll recalibrate, have the answers you need, and then go from there. Anyway, I digress, gang. Thank you very much for being part of this. Really, really appreciate some kind messages from last week's episode. Vice versa, if you know somebody who's our people, you know somebody this would help, or you've been struggling with perfectionism and you're unsure how to unlock the next version of yourself to elevate your standard to a higher frequency, I'll be more than happy to give you some more questions and threads that you can take to implement, and more to the point, give you direction and clarity on what you need to do. So I digress. Until next week, team, I'll catch you guys soon.